The birth of Kuki insurgency in northeast India, Pu Nehlun story, how he was killed by CRPF at Motbung, Kangpokpi, India. Disclaimer. This report is based on information sourced from national and international news archives, public domain materials, and historical records. While Zalengam media has made every effort to ensure the accuracy and context of the content presented, we do not claim direct verification of all events referenced. Any errors, omissions, or misinterpretations are unintentional. Zalengam media shall not be held liable for any consequences arising from the use of this information. All images and videos used in this report are for representational, research and analytical purposes only. Zalengam media does not claim ownership of any third-party visual materials, unless explicitly stated. Full credit belongs to the respective owners or sources. KNF founder Nehlun Kipgen, killed in CRPF encounter at Motbung, 1993, Motbung, Kangpokpi district, Manipur, on October 12, 1993. Nehlun Kipgen, the founder and then chief of the Kuki National Front, KNF, was killed in an encounter with the Central Reserve Police Force, CRPF, near Motbung in Manipur's Kangpokpi district. The incident marked a significant turning point in the Kuki insurgency movement in the northeastern state. According to official reports at the time, the encounter took place around 3 a.m., following a specific intelligence input regarding the presence of KNF cadres in the area. A CRPF team had launched a search and cordon operation in and around Motbung village, which had been a suspected militant hideout. When confronted, the militants opened fire, prompting retaliatory action from the CRPF. In the ensuing gun battle, Nehlun Kipgen was shot dead. 2 of his associates were also reported killed, although their identities were not immediately confirmed. A cache of weapons, including assault rifles and ammunition, was recovered from the site. Nehlun Kipgen was a key figure in the Kuki nationalist movement and played a pivotal role in establishing the KNF in the late 1980s. The group sought the creation of a separate state, Zalengam, for the Kuki people, carved out of parts of Manipur, Mizoram, and Myanmar. The KNF's formation was partly in response to tensions between Kuki and Naga armed groups, especially during the violent clashes of the early 1990s. Under Nehlun's leadership, the KNF was accused of running extortion rackets, enforcing tax on tribal communities, and targeting rival insurgent groups. The Indian government declared the organization unlawful under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, UAPA. Nehlun had reportedly rejected ceasefire offers and was continuing armed resistance at the time of his death. His killing dealt a major blow to the KNF, which subsequently splintered into several factions, the most prominent being KNF Nehlun, KNF MC, and others. Some of these factions later entered into suspension of operations, agreements with the Indian government, while others remained active underground. The CRPF operation drew both praise and controversy. While security officials called it a clean and successful operation, some community voices raised concerns over due process and the potential for retaliatory violence. Nonetheless, the incident remains a significant milestone in the counter-insurgency history of Manipur. Sources: KNF Chief Nehlun Kipgen killed in encounter. Imphal Free Press, October 1993. Insurgency in Northeast India. The Kuki National Front. SATP, South Asia Terrorism Portal. Kuki militant leader shot dead in Manipur. The Hindu, October 14, 1993. Who's Who among Northeast insurgent leaders, EPW Archives, 1993. Pu Nehlun Kipgen, Torchbearer of the Kuki National Dream. Introduction: A Voice from the Hills. In the misty hills of northeast India, a region often overlooked and underrepresented, a quiet revolution once began with a resolute man named Pu Nehlun Kipgen. To many outside the region, his name might not evoke recognition, but within the hearts of the Kuki people, he is remembered with reverence and pride. Nehlun Kipgen was not just a leader, he was the founder of a movement, the architect of a vision called Zalen-gam, a homeland for the Kuki people. In 1987, at a time when ethnic conflicts and political unrest were rampant across the northeastern states of India, Nehlun Kipgen stood tall and formed the Kuki National Front, KNF. His aim? To unify and empower the scattered Kuki communities divided by colonial borders and political neglect. What followed was a saga of resilience, struggle, and unyielding faith in a dream that continues to resonate across generations. The humble beginnings of a revolutionary. Nehlun Kipgen was born into the Kuki community, a vibrant tribal group with a rich history and culture. The Kukis, though historically proud and self-sufficient, had been subject to systemic marginalization. From colonial times through post-independence India, their voices were often drowned by larger political narratives. Not much is publicly recorded about Nehlun Kipgen's early life. Perhaps deliberately, his past remains a canvas of quiet mystery, marked by experiences that sharpened his awareness of his people's plight. Growing up amidst the rolling hills and deep forests, he saw firsthand the socio-economic challenges faced by his community: poor infrastructure, limited access to education, scant representation in politics, and a slow erosion of their cultural heritage. These formative years lit a fire within him. He realized that the Kukis needed more than survival. They needed dignity, recognition, and a place to call their own. This understanding became the cornerstone of his life's mission. The birth of a movement, founding of the KNF. It was in 1987 that Nehlun Kipgen founded the Kuki National Front. This was more than a reactionary move against marginalization. It was a bold, strategic, and deeply symbolic act. He wasn't simply organizing resistance. He was laying the groundwork for a movement rooted in identity, unity, and sovereignty. The name Zalen-gam, which translates to Land of Freedom, encapsulated the spirit of the KNF's vision. It wasn't merely about carving out territory, it was about reimagining a homeland that would unify all Kuki-inhabited areas spread across India, Myanmar, and Bangladesh. In essence, it was an ambitious blueprint for restoring the dignity of a people divided by arbitrary borders and long denied a political voice. While the political vision was bold, what made the KNF unique under Nehlun Kipgen's leadership was its ideological foundation. It wasn't about short-term gain or opportunistic politics. It was about instilling a lasting sense of identity and purpose among the Kukis. The ideological compass guiding principles of the KNF. Nehlun Kipgen's ideology was both simple and profound. It revolved around 5 central pillars. 1. Creation of Zalen-gam, a sovereign homeland for all Kukis. 2. Preservation of Kuki identity, language, customs, and cultural practices. 3. Political empowerment, increased representation and participation in decision-making. 4. Social progress, better education, healthcare, and infrastructure for the Kuki people. 5. Economic upliftment, sustainable development, and equitable resource distribution. Each of these goals reflected a deeply felt need. In a region where ethnic lines often dictated political fortunes, the Kukis were consistently underrepresented. Nehlun Kipgen sought to change this through a collective awakening, urging his people to rise, organize, and assert their rightful place in the socio-political hierarchy. From politics to the battlefield, the KNF's armed struggle. While the KNF began as a political platform, the reality of the region's geopolitics soon pushed it toward militarization. Faced with systemic neglect and suppression, the organization adopted armed struggle as a necessary means to an end. Operating largely in Manipur and spreading into parts of Assam, Nagaland, and Mizoram, KNF cadres were trained in guerrilla tactics. They established bases, conducted operations, and forged alliances with other insurgent groups to sustain their movement. Armed resistance, in their view, was not for conquest but for survival and visibility in a system that continued to overlook them. Though controversial, the KNF's militant wing served to amplify their cause. It brought attention to their grievances and created space for negotiations that were previously unthinkable. However, it also brought tragic consequences: violence, displacement, and cycles of retribution that affected countless civilians. Kisus Jontale BC, the cracks within, challenges and fragmentation. No revolution is without its trials, and the KNF was no exception. As the movement grew, internal divisions began to surface. Ideological disagreements, power struggles, and differing strategies led to the splintering of the organization into various factions. Some of these factions remained committed to Nehlun Kipgen's vision of Zalen-gam, while others recalibrated their goals toward more localized autonomy or sought peace settlements. This fragmentation diluted the movement's coherence and left the Kuki populace caught in a web of conflicting narratives. Despite these challenges, Nehlun Kipgen's influence endured. Even as different factions vied for seeking peace, from guns to dialogue, by the late 1990s and early 2000s, the Indian government began initiating peace talks with several insurgent groups in the northeast. The KNF, though fractured, was part of these discussions. Some factions signed suspension of operation (SOO) agreements with the government, leading to temporary ceasefires and the opening of formal dialogue. These developments, while tentative, signaled a shift from confrontation to conversation. Though Nehlun Kipgen himself was no longer the central figure in these talks, the ideological framework he had established provided the context and language for negotiations. His blueprint of cultural pride and political self-determination lived on in every memorandum, every round table, and every promise made across negotiating tables. The man behind the movement, what set Nehlun Kipgen apart, wasn't just his political acumen or organizational skill, but his unwavering belief in the collective potential of the Kuki people. He wasn't merely a rebel or insurgent leader, he was a visionary who looked beyond the horizon of contemporary politics. He could have chosen a quieter life, he could have conformed to the status quo, but instead he chose the harder path, to awaken a people, to challenge an unjust system, and to dream boldly of freedom and unity. Those who knew him or followed his leadership describe him as resolute, principled, and deeply empathetic. His charisma lay not in fiery speeches or dramatic gestures, but in his quiet confidence and moral clarity. The legacy of Nehlun Kipgen, more than a name. Today, the dream of Zalen-gam remains unfulfilled. The borders still divide the Kukis, the promises of peace are still works in progress, and yet, Nehlun Kipgen's legacy burns bright. His vision gave the Kukis a platform, a voice, and a shared identity. He rekindled cultural pride and political awareness in a generation that had once felt forgotten. His ideas continue to inspire leaders, activists, and ordinary citizens who still believe in the dream of a united homeland. Critics may argue about the methods, particularly the militant strategies adopted during the KNF's peak years. They point to the instability and suffering caused by armed conflict. But even among skeptics, there is an acknowledgement that Nehlun Kipgen gave the Kuki movement a soul and a spine. Conclusion: remembering a revolutionary spirit. Nehlun Kipgen was more than the founder of a political movement. He was the embodiment of a collective yearning for justice, dignity, and belonging. His life is a testament to what one individual, fueled by conviction and compassion, can achieve against overwhelming odds. The story of the KNF and the dream of Zalengam is far from over. It continues to evolve, shaped by new challenges, new voices, and changing geopolitical